Oh, there you are. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chat from the Deep, our weekly live stream post-session discussion. We talk about what just happened during D&D. This is the chat for session 15, so if you've not watched that session yet, please go do that, because there will be spoilers. I'm your DM, Eric, and joining me we have Gottwald's player Chris.
Hello.
Max player Raymond.
Hello.
So we made it to the next step of this giant, chaotic scene I've got going on, and I'm very, very curious to get y'all's feedback on how it's progressing so far, because I'll be honest, this has been a quite the unique challenge to manifest from just a few notes, basically, in the campaign book itself. And I knew that going into it. I knew, like, this is going to be the trickiest, probably the single trickiest part to do. And I kept comparing it when I do the crafting streams to the spoilers for our Rime of the Frost main campaign. Chapter 4, which is when the Shardland Dragon attacks 10 towns, and you all have to go and thwart it. And it's also a big, kind of unique, dangerous situation that takes, a couple sessions to break through and have all these action things going on. And also is very pitifully underdeveloped in the book. And then I kind of, and I liked the idea of it, but then I wanted to create actual, like, scenes and scenarios. And because we play on a virtual tabletop, I also have to create maps for all these scenes and situations. Yeah. This one, at least map-wise, was a lot easier for these first two sessions of it, because it's all water stuff. So it's just like the ship and then whatever the ship is dealing with. So
right.
Once I had the base map, which I've had for earlier in the campaign, that part hasn't been too bad. It's going to start getting complicated, which you guys haven't seen that map yet, because we didn't get quite that far, but I did put together an entire fucking docks map.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know what you think about how it's going down right now, if you feel like you're still in
the way it was written. Is it similar to like to where like it just says like they're being attacked and it lets the DM decide how to handle that? Like, what's involved in this as far as the way it's in the book?
So, trying to think how much I want to reveal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just the as far as we gotten, I suppose.
Yeah. I had to change a major part of it. Basically, the book has multiple cities under attack on the Sword Coast. It's kind of like Storm King's Thunder, where it's like, hey, here's major places being attacked. Here's what's happening in each one, and like players can like, and you the DM can also choose like which ones you want to run with.
Okay. Yeah.
And you could do multiples, or you could just have them be mutually exclusive. And then the way I ran with it is like, okay, well, what if everybody's attacking one city?
Mm-hmm.
Because that just seemed more fun and a better use of our time.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
and more like, cinematic and everything. Yeah. So automatically I changed all that. So normally they all come in and there's just like kind of one skirmish somewhere where you can deal with them. And then each, there's also one, I can't talk too much. There's a thing that is involved with each city that we haven't, and I'm using one of those things for this city that we haven't gotten to yet.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but the way I ran with it is like, okay, there's multiple enemies here. There's multiple kind of encounters within this one giant set piece. And I wanted to break up those and I wanted to break that up into multiple encounters. And they happen to just involve a lot of combat, because you're in a kind of a war zone is really what I wanted to create here. And hopefully make them feel a little different from each other. That's the big thing. I didn't want you just to... I know Rain was like, let's go fight the ships. I was like, oh. Because I was like, all right, I want to do that. Like, here's the ship battle last session. Now you're going to do... Okay, now you're like, water shit's going on. With you, still have the ship. And then like next session, okay, now you're on the docks. And now you're like next to the dock doing that show. I wanted to kind of break it up to where it feels like you're progressing through multiple set pieces within a larger set piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
like that we're all eating treats.
I thought we were trying to get to Tendrick, so that's why I kept saying that. I was like,
yeah,
let's jump ship to ship and get closer to him. Because you painted this picture of like, this is it. You can't go further very well. You only have a few seconds to decide what you want to do. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe things are closing in. Let's all jump. I was
Yeah.
gonna suggest we catapult ourselves over, but
What
I
I
thought we were
tried,
trying to get the Tendrix.
yeah, and what I tried to do, and I talked about this last time too, is that Tendrix is not even scripted to be there. In the book, I did that because I felt like there needed to be some kind of cool villain thing there. Instead, it's just whatever the captain of the enemy force or something. What I tried to convey is like he's there, but he's not the target. The target is like helping the city. But that's part of me. Like I can show you these things, but I can't necessarily force you guys to do that. I can try to force you as best I can, and which is my description of like, hey, the ships are kind of rallying around here. Here's your opening chance to get in there. I'm like really trying to nudge you guys in that direction. Be like, I want you guys to be like the heroes that save the people, and not the heroes that try to defeat the villain at this moment. And I really want to try to paint the fact that Tendrix is kind of even like he's leaving the scene, but maybe not quite yet because there's other things that are happening as you discovered. So, but I knew going into it was going to be very tricky to do that, and I did. Hopefully I didn't railroad you guys too much in terms of what you're coming across. But on the other hand, like I've got all these scripted encounters and maps like ready to go. So, that's a tricky balance.
Though? I guess I mean, because at one point I got what you were saying. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, he does like. I think he did a pretty good job of at that point selling that like, oh, it would be a bad idea to go attack the fleet of ships now because they're all sort of, ready for you.
You got the jump on them initially, but like it would not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But what would you? I mean, I guess this is kind of the common DM problem.
Right.
What do you do if they do something stupid? But what would you have done if we had pressed the issue and been like, no, we're going for the ships? Did you have anything prepared, or would it have been like
No?
And then you,
I did not have anything prepared. I either would have had to just run another, like, okay, well, another ship. The bad thing is the answer would have been the tediousness of it, but it's the easiest answer. Is like, all right, well, another ship comes and intercepts you, so now I got to do another pirate ship battle, and like I would just have to discourage you by throwing enemies at you. But that feels bad for me, the DM, and you, the player. So you're like, oh, we just did this already. Like, yeah, you did. Like, but there's a wall of guys between you, and that's what's going to happen. Or I would have just a fucking giant shark come up and ram the ship and maybe steer you guys off that way. Like, whatever is going to happen would happen to try to put up walls between you two, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, Jason, you're right. Sometimes as a DM, you do have to do that, and you try to do it as nicely as possible to be like, no, you just don't, you don't go left here. You can't go left here.
Yeah, right. There's a certain I choked on that one. There's a certain point, and poor Ray, he has seen this often, where I have to kind of like, no, that's not going to work, or downplay or something, and you try not to do that as much as you can, right? You want to give them the chance to do the cool things and make the choices, but occasionally it's like, yeah, this is not going to happen. This is not how this is working out right here. And that would be a situation where, worst case scenario, you guys are like, no, we're going after Tendrix. I would probably reuse the same. And the big thing is like, I don't have maps. So I would reuse the same map we just did literally last time. Be like, all right, well, another ship comes alongside you and engages you.
Right.
And that just slows you guys down. So.
I wonder how we, like, if we ever played, which we don't, but if we ever played just full Theater of the Mind, that if you didn't need maps,
yeah,
and
I've thought about, I still can't talk right. I made that exact comment during a crafting stream where I said, like, this is one of those unique situations that would be easier to run in Theater of the Mind than it would be on a battlefield with multiple tokens.
Because we could do it like we could do any of like 12 things.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different directions we could have gone.
Yeah.
But you have to make maps for each of the things. So it's like, okay, I can only do so many, iterations here.
Yeah, and and again, I tried to look back at how I did that chapter 4 in Rime, where it was like, that one was easier because it was like, hey, here's the city, here's point A, here's the thing that you saw that I kind of pointed the beacon out, and then you just have the one shortest path. So I'm like, all right, well, here's happening this section, here's happening this section, here's happening this section. This one did feel dangerously more open worldy, where I was like, oh, there's a whole harbor here, this is a much bigger area, like there's lots of things you guys to choose to do with, but thankfully you can only react to things that I tell you about. So I'm like, all right, well, the giant sharks with these coral growths, and they're bringing people over there. That's happening, and that's, hey, conveniently pretty close to where you guys are. Or there's a destroyed ship right there. That's also pretty, it's kind of on the way too when you're coming in. It's just like you're seeing these things pop up as, things.
At that point, that kind of becomes like the Rime map, that kind of becomes the adventure game points of interest. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like you didn't have show it on the map. Okay, it was kind of on the map,
Yeah.
but like, here's the sunken guard ship. Here's the coral shark with
Yeah.
the prisoners. Like, you can visit. You know,
Yeah.
which place do you want to visit?
Yeah, and I had prepped all the way to the docks battle in case we made it that far, just because I didn't know how long. You just never know how long these individual
Sure.
encounters are going to last. Like that one with just the sharks and the people, I thought was going to go decently quick. But again, I just don't know what you guys are going to do, because you know they're just sharks. They're not that strong. But the unique thing
Right.
about that one is it's not about you just sitting up there picking them off. It's like, oh shit, there's people we got to rescue. And I actually really appreciated that. Like half the party like jumped in the water to like go save the people. It's like, all right, that's awesome.
Yeah,
And ended up being a really fun. You had to do a bunch of like fancy shenanigans, but it ended up being a really fun encounter.
yes,
From
I
my
agree.
point of view. And then this
Yeah.
one was it was a similar deal, but this one had more traditional monsters in it to have to deal with. So it was like a scaled up version.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the first one of like trying, like, the objective is not to, you know, win necessarily, to save the people.
Yeah. Some of that was down to their roles. I kind of missed some attacks with the sharks
that's
too.
also true. Yeah, you missed some attacks with the sharks, yeah. Unfortunately, I think this is just kind of the tuning of 5e in general. In a similar way to where like healing's not a good idea.
Yeah.
It's instead just kill the enemy. At one point I was like, oh, I could see Heather made the same decision I did.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, saving these people isn't the right call to save these people.
It's killing
Killing
the
the
enemies.
sharks is
Yeah.
the right call to save these. And then I was like, that's kind of a bummer. I wish there was something we could have, you
Yeah.
know, like.
I guess.
But tactically, that's just the way 5e works. You know,
But
it's
she had mentioned using that rope trick thing at one point. I was like, oh, that'd be a cool idea.
Well,
the only thing you would have is if
she
you had
did,
those.
but I saw her like mentally
Oh,
make the decision, like, oh no, the sharks will die.
It's
and
better to
we'll
use
just be
the-
done with this.
yeah.
Yeah. That's when she used the chromatic orb. That's literally like I saw her sort of like shift and go like, I could do this,
Yeah.
but if we kill all the sharks, it's over. So,
And that might be
you
the
know.
difference between a theater of the mind where I'm describing sharks everywhere and they're coming at you and you freaking out and you're like, oh shit, I need to get these people out of here, versus you're looking at the map saying, oh, there's only like 2 sharks left. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, there's technically like as many sharks as I want there to be, but I just didn't want to slog everything down with these guys just fighting sharks all fucking night.
Sure, right, yeah.
So yeah, I would say that is, if we had somebody like Valravn, at least higher level Valravn, who could like teleport people away or do something like that,
Right,
but you guys
right.
don't have a whole lot of that kind of utility. It's kind of built for damage. I did feel a little weird that Reese is so built for water, but he just kind of stood on the ship blasting the whole time. I was like, your guy can swim and do all this shit in the water, but he just went turret mode.
I've heard that's the trap of Warlock, though. Is that like
Like Eldritch Blast, my best thing to do.
Elder Splash is always the best thing
Yeah,
to do.
I could tell he
so-
felt kind of bored by the fight, and he didn't seem as effective. And yeah, the bummer is that he also just rolled really poorly on the damage a lot too. And unfortunately, we have a sharpshooter ranger, so he's never gonna come close in terms of like the backline DPS. He's
right.
never gonna come close to that kind of damage.
Yeah.
But he's part fighter. Like I don't know, I feel like he should get in the water and mix things up a little bit.
Got the spear.
Yeah, he's got the
Yep.
spear, and he's literally his whole baseline class kit is that he can attack in the water, built for water, all that. And yeah, Mad mentioned didn't see many rules influencing that. So underwater combat rules, it's hard. I guess they should be influenced if you're on the water, but I think most of the time when we were fighting, you guys were on the coral growth. I'm trying to think. Or it was like Gottwald using his fists in the water. I would assume that's not
But
disadvantage.
like swimming on the surface. I wasn't underwater necessarily.
So does underwater apply if you're on the surface of the water? And then,
but also to your point though, like I don't think fists are disadvantaged.
I don't think- I don't think
think
fists-
unarmed strikes are. I think there's certain weapons that are.
yeah. So I'm
think
trying
it's
to think
spears and dagger and tridents are like the ones.
I'm trying to think if it ever came up where I missed somebody doing an underwater combat thing. I don't think I did. Because like Sabra was in the water, but she was casting spells and she was technically not in the water. She had her air bubble thing, which was cool. And then you were fists. Mac fell in the water, but very strategically like flew out of the water and then shot the bow out of the water. So I don't. Yeah, I'm trying to think if it ever actually came up. Where I think the water still played an important part of the tactical battlefield, especially in the coral one, because you were like, oh, do I stand on the coral and take attack from the tentacles, or do I sit in the
Yes.
water and fucking get attacked by this giant shark in there?
Yeah.
And that created an appropriate level of tension that I very much enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those tentacles were a scary obstacle there. Like that was
So
like
full disclosure, I used the stat block of a giant octopus for the tentacles.
okay.
Just to do that attack. And it was just an environmental thing where at the end of anybody's Sawage, non-prisoner turn, they attack, essentially.
Okay.
And whatever the giant octopus tentacle attack is, they get to do that as like a defense mechanism for this growth thing, which I thought would be a cool
Yeah.
like surprise feature. Even though you can see it on there, but you just think, oh, it's a background arm, and then you see his tentacles coming,
Right.
you're like, oh, fuck.
I kind of knew it was coming because you would describe when Mac jumped in the water, like those tentacles like writhing out, but not.
I
quite being
did
able
like
to
I
get
did
him.
like that Mac got close but didn't get near enough to it.
Yeah.
So I gave you that information because normally that was going to be a surprise thing where like, yeah, you kind of see them, but you're not really aware that's an enemy thing. But because you got close enough, and yeah, that kind of acted as like a little bit of a reconnaissance information. Now, whether or not he was able to give that information to you while he was underwater is a little metagamey, but
Yeah.
it happens.
I mean, I'm not sure it would have changed my actions either way if I'd known, but
Yeah.
what they were doing.
Jason asked, do you discuss your character choices together or just roll them out as surprises? I'm pretty sure we discuss all these things pretty heavily.
We gotta.
Chris has
we
like
gotta-
spreadsheets.
I mean, yeah. I'm perpetually the Phil person because
Except this campaign. Except for this campaign.
because I'm gonna say this campaign. I literally said at the very beginning, like I'm gonna be a Rune Knight fighter. That's what I want. But we've got a chat, Discord chat that we discuss. People like throw on like what they're thinking about doing
Yeah.
and kind of go back and like toss stuff around.
Yeah, I would
I
definitely.
think
Yeah,
we also have different likes. Like we didn't overlap. It's not like I mean, there's been some campaigns where two people want to be sorcerers or something, but
yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not like we're arguing. Like, oh, we both want to be a sorcerer. Oh man, I got to choose something different.
That's true.
Yeah.
That hasn't come up where somebody won't be something. What happens is something like Chris, where everybody picks one and then he'll decide, okay, based on the characters I want to play, here's the role
The
that
one
I should
fits
fill.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, but even like we don't have any healers in this party whatsoever, and I think that might be the first
No.
where I think only technically Mac might have like a access to healing spells even as a ranger, and you're
you?
pretty
I
minor
don't
at
know.
that.
Yeah.
So in terms of like balance, it's not necessarily there unless somebody wants to fill. But it's just been a case of like, and for this one, it was very much everybody knew ahead of time. Hey, the nautical campaign,
Yes, that's true.
and then build accordingly, and everybody absolutely did.
Yep.
And then, what do you think about the table I had? Because I wanted to create a way to mechanically manifest the war going on around, like the chaos of the battle.
Yeah.
In terms of like it's affecting you during the combat encounter. So I treat it as a I guess technically not a layer action. Layer action is of 20, but I remembered at the start of each round, a random person would have to roll on that table. I guess I'll go ahead and tell you, there's a different table for being on the docks and being on the ship.
I saw that. It's on our.
Oh yeah, because I made it on there because I wasn't sure if we were gonna
Yeah.
make it on there. Yeah. And we got to see. I think we saw all the things. Yeah, there's only a full disclosure, that one on the harbor, it's a D4, and 2 of them nothing happens. So it's pretty forgiving.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically,
Well,
every
I was gonna say I like it. I think you should overtune it just a little bit. Like the number of times nothing happened. I don't. What are there? Ship falling off. Ballista.
yeah, and the ballista, and then the 2 nothing happens. Yeah.
Oh, it's just a 4 then.
Yeah, it's a 4. It's a D4, so you have a 50% chance of
okay.
nothing happening.
Okay,
it did.
gotcha.
Seeing it in action, it came up more than I would have liked. I agree.
I would say maybe one. I mean, maybe I don't know if you got a third option, but
Yeah.
maybe one have nothing happen because
It
it did seem a little forgiving for
Yeah.
as well as we were doing tonight.
I agree. Maybe just the dice. Like it should have been a 50% chance, and it felt like it was more like 75% chance nothing was happening.
Yeah.
That was a last minute add. I initially only had that for the docks as being a war zone, and the docks is a full. There's nothing happens on the docks. I'll say that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then this one, I was like, all right, well, I feel like this one, there should be a chaos one, but like not as bad. So I just determined it was
Okay.
D4 with only 2 of them having bad things. One of them, a potential to knock people into the ship. I was very happy that went off twice in each encounter. And this one obviously changed the dynamic of everything. Suddenly took
did.
Mac, who would be very happy sitting on the ship firing arrows, dumping his ass into the water, and like
Yep.
completely changed the trajectory of that fight for you.
True. Because it was hard to get back on, so it's like, all right, I gotta go somewhere else.
Yeah. And there's like a giant shark in the water.
Gotta go manta ray mode.
Gotta go
Swim
manta
through
ray
the water.
mode. Yeah, so that was very satisfying. That happened to be like the first thing that people rolled. And that one isn't. Neither of them are like something automatically bad happens. It's either somebody you get to make a save or an attack roll, or the thing attacking you makes an attack roll.
Okay, yeah.
But I thought that was a pretty fun way to shake things up. But you're right. That one. Partly the way the dice fell, but also I probably should have only had it been a D4 with like one of them nothing happens as a respite, and then added a third one in there of just some other thing happening.
Or maybe, I would think maybe just 2 of them be the ship thing. Because now that I'm thinking about it, the ballista thing, if that had gone off on somebody else, that would have been pretty fucking bad. Because on me, I rolled well on 3d10, but
you did, yeah.
That happening to Savra and doing 20 damage.
An average,
to her
it could be 20,
been-
yeah. An average of
been,
like 15 or
fight
16.
changing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nasty. Yeah, it certainly could be. Yeah, the ship one's a pretty low DC, but it affects everybody on the ship, so that can get kind of nasty. And I didn't even write in there like it knocks you 10. Like, no, it just fucking knocks you off the ship. Like, I'm not gonna worry about it.
No matter where you
no matter
are.
where you are, you're in the
Yes.
middle of the ship in the very like under deck. No, you're somehow getting thrown through a window.
Yep.
Or if you activate it twice around, I think it would help constantly
Oof.
remind us, like, hey, bad stuff is happening, bad stuff happening.
Yeah.
Because every time you did it, I was like, oh yeah, that's the thing. Our turns are so long that I forget about it. But you did.
Yeah, it's the reason I like layer
This
actions.
is funny because I feel like both of us are saying make it harder on us, but it's like
I appreciate that. That's good. That's good feedback. So I like that we liked it. And you're like, but I wanted more from that table. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about doing multiple times around, because something I like about like the layer action style versus legendary actions is it's way easier for me, the DM, to keep track and not have to worry about, okay, when
right.
should I pull the trigger on this? Have I done it already? Oh, should I miss that one? Instead, I can be like, all right.
where it's on the initiative tracker for you.
I should in the future.
you-
This time I didn't
okay.
do that because I just said at the start of the round. I think I only missed it once, and I only missed it by like a turn. I was like, oh, I should have done it. But
Yeah.
somehow I just came up with like, hey, at the start of every round, we get it back up to the 20s. We're going to roll on that table. And I just
Yeah.
use the token fate to randomly select somebody. Although in that case, it's
Right.
only one of the
One of
things
them,
cares about.
yeah.
The actual target. Yeah, well, I'm
But
excited.
even if it didn't, though, it's fun to make one of us roll on the
Yes,
on the table
on the
anyway.
wheel,
Even if
yeah.
it doesn't affect us.
Yeah. Well, you say you want it harder. I will say stay tuned for the next the what is it? The other one called?
I mean, yeah.
Docks Under
Well,
Siege.
That's the thing that at least I like about it, and I feel like you did a good job in this session of selling this. Is we were talking about it last time, the God of War, style. Like, there's a war going on in the background. It
Yeah.
doesn't involve you, but it's happening.
It's happening, yeah. But like mechanically, like things still are flying at you.
Yes,
just
yeah. So
not even
I do appreciate
like
that.
somebody's aiming at, but just general.
This is in the God of War game where like this, it would all be happening in the background. Except every once in a while you'd see like a ballista, and then like a giant fucking rock would fall on the battlefield and
Yeah.
affect the battle. So like stuff like that could happen as you play it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to convey here, basically. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a challenging thing to do, and literally had to come up with all this, come up with the balancing thing. The balance is a tricky because I'm trying to teach this balance this whole section as if it were kind of a dungeon crawl. Like I can't throw huge battles at you guys.
Right.
Or even a normal like encounter things. It's like this is something you won't be able to rest with. Although I did give you a short rest because we agreed to our house rules that short rests only take like 5 minutes, and this was a great situation where you would normally not be able to short rest like at all throughout any of these sessions, and that I think would be too unforgiving for what I was trying to do.
You offered it to us like at the exact moment that we were about to ask for it.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, you're like,
so
you know what? We're just gonna have to wait, let these people die for an hour and rest because we just
Yeah.
can't right now. And yeah, Heather was out of spell slots. I think Reese was out of spell slot. His like 2 spell slots. So
Yep.
And hopefully that gives you guys some options. Although still, yeah, you're meant to be pretty drained. It's pretty nasty from
Yeah.
all these. This is quite the literal war of attrition,
Right.
and there is
I
still
do like that
more to
too.
come.
That idea of it being kind of a dungeon crawl, but it's like not a dungeon, so it's just
Right.
like encounters and stepping through. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, so I might have missed this opportunity, but
Yeah.
I want to. Can you tell us how close we were to killing the shark? I couldn't decide if that last wisdom roll was it a pity thing? Or
I will
for
reveal
it?
because you can go back on the stream and watch the hit points. It had tons of hit points left.
Oh.
It was not even close. Raymond, it
Oh
had
no.
when it fled, it had 45 hit points remaining.
Okay.
When
So
you
it's
guys
gonna be
the
quite a bit
opening
more.
volley was great. You guys did like 40 or something damage to it. Like 40 or 50 damage to it right off the bat. Where I was like, "Oh shit, like that's nasty."
Yeah.
But then once initiative started happening and suddenly you guys, oh shit, we got multiple targets, a shark's diving underwater, and it breaks it up, and then it never got like touched hardly. So it was rolling around with like 60 hit points, like half health, and that's when it came after your ship and did a chunk of damage to your ship, which yes, your ship has AC and hit points and a damage threshold.
Right.
I don't know if you'd be privy to the information or not. I guess you would be.
I mean, it's in the book.
You can, yeah, that's true. You can look up a sailing ship. You have a sailing ship. It's got
Yeah.
an AC of 15, which it barely hit, a damage threshold of 15, meaning anything has to do at least 15 damage to do damage to it, and 200 hit points. This thing did 20 some damage in one
Yeah.
hit. So I was like, all right, well, it would still take it like what 8 hits or something to destroy it using that damage. But that's to destroy it completely. Like it's damaging your ship when it attacks. And I loved that it did that and you were like, oh fuck, not the ship.
Yeah. Not the ship.
But yeah, it had like 60 hit points. It was just rolling around because you guys had plenty of targets out there. And then whenever Mac entered the mouth and did all that, you're like, oh, I get to roll this and do a little bit of damage. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is awesome, but holy fuck, it has so much life left.
Yeah.
It's not, but that's when I was like, but I want to reward you for doing the cool thing, right? And I was like, you went
Right.
inside the fucking shark mouth, you unleashed this. That's so cool. So at the one point, I was really thinking like I could have it explode and be really awesome, but it is if this was like just a big shark that I would do that, and it had like 20 hit points left or something. But this is a giant like a megalodon-sized shark. And you rolled so bad for damage. I was like, all right, well, instead it's gonna like fuck up. It's gonna fuck it up mentally.
Right. Yeah.
It's very upsetting to have this giant like bubble pop in your mouth region, and
Yeah.
ultimately I had it roll like a wisdom save kind of morale check. And I wasn't sure. It's just a beast, but they are kind of trained by the Swagan. So I was like, all right, how do I figure that out in terms of when it's heavily injured, does it just flee? But so in this case, I was like, all right, well, it's trained, it's big, but it's also taking a lot of damage, and yeah, it doesn't like having its jowls exploded. So
Its trainers were taken down.
yeah, so ultimately left it up to the dice, and thankfully you guys won it, which I gave it a pretty high. It has a +0 and it's a 15, so it had like a 75% chance of fleeing at that point, but
Yeah.
I still gave it a chance to stick around. So
Yeah.
and it probably would have
Well, I
downed
think
you if
it
it did, because it was doing 20 some damage if it hits.
I know. I was looking. I was like, I might take one more hit, but that's it.
Yeah, your best
Right.
protection was the fact that you'd never been hit, because all these guys have
Yeah.
blood frenzy. So if you haven't been hit, they just do
Including
regular
the giant
attacks.
shark?
The shark does as well. So the regular sharks don't have blood frenzy; they have pack
Yeah.
tactics,
Okay.
which is odd. I find
Yeah,
the
that's-
giant
that's
shark
different,
does not
yeah.
have pack tactics, but does have blood frenzy.
Okay. Okay.
I had to look twice at that.
That
Yeah,
is weird. Yeah.
I was shocked when I looked at the sharks, like, oh, they don't have the blood frenzy, but then this guy does. So, yeah, fun use of a creature that we probably never fought
So
before.
he would have attacked Mac again. He would have had advantage on that attack.
Would have advantage on the attack, and I think Mac
Right.
only had like 20 some hit points, so
Yeah.
it would have been pretty nasty.
I think I misheard how damaged you said the shark was.
The problem is it was heavily damaged. Like it had it was missing more than half its health at the time.
Oh, right.
but you
just
It
didn't
was
know that-
so chunky.
You didn't know that it
yeah.
started with 120 hit points.
Yeah.
So missing over half its health means it could still have 50 hit points left.
Yeah.
So
Right.
technically I told you the truth, but it's like I said, it's a 30-foot fucking shark. It's massive. Definitely kind of a bit of a boss
I
fight.
didn't know that, or I would not have pulled off that stunt.
I gotta
Would
get
not
out
have-
of this thing.
Would not have swam into its mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, 2D, I could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Anything else about this session? We are in the thick of the war now.
In the thick of the battle.
Yeah. All right. I think that will do it for this week's Chat from the Deep. Thank you to Chris and Raymond. I'm Eric. Thank you to all the wonderful fans for watching, and we will see you next week.
See you then.
Wonder if we'll see the shark make a comeback.
We better.
Bum, bum, bum.
A shark has come back, like hunt us.
Just like the other enemies in the past, right?
Don't tease
It's our,
me.
it's our
with
Jaws now.
Don't tease me with a good time.